This is the Untold Italy travel podcast, and you are listening to episode number 198.
Ciao a tutti and benvenuti to Untold Italy, the travel podcast where you go to the towns and villages, mountains and lakes, hills and coastlines of Bella Italia. Each week your host, Katie Clark, takes you on a journey in search of magical landscapes, history, culture, wine, gelato, and of course, a whole lot of pasta. If you're dreaming of Italy and planning future adventures there, you've come to the right place.
Ciao friends, buongiorno. I hope you're all living out your Italian dreams in person, virtually, or simply dreaming of the future and trips to come. In this episode, we're chatting with a woman who decided to grab life with both hands and move to Italy with a dream to explore its 20 regions because she knew she had to. Gabe North-Harney and her husband Leo moved to the gorgeous northern city of Treviso from my hometown of Melbourne, Australia, to chase their Italian dreams. Over the past year, they've visited 10 of Italy's 20 regions and loved immersing themselves in the local customs and culture of their adopted city, Treviso. Gabe's here today to share her story and all about the wonderful things you can do in and around beautiful Treviso. Aperitivo in Venice, anyone? Let's hear more. Benvenuta, Gabe. Ciao, and welcome onto the Untold Italy podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you join us from actually one of my favourite cities in northern Italy, Treviso. And I can't wait to hear all of your insights into this beautiful city in Veneto. But before we begin, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell everyone how you came to be living there.
Well, my name is Gabe North-Harney. I was a Melburnian living in Australia, and during COVID, I suppose, that was the crucible when I realised that a desk was a really boring place to view the world from. And realising that life was too short, I figured it was time to make a change when COVID died down. I was a centre manager. I managed shopping centres in Melbourne, and spending a life managing financial risk and legal risk and commercial risk, I realised that I'd failed to manage the biggest risk of all, Katie, which is the risk of spending your life not doing exactly what you want on the bet that you're going to buy yourself some time later to do it in. So Treviso was not necessarily the destination I chose, but I knew it was going to be Italy. And my husband Leo and I packed our bags a year ago now and came to Italy to scout out a place that we might live. And having gone through an incredible bureaucratic hula hoops to get ourselves over here I find myself in the bella città of Treviso.
So what was it about Italy that made you want to come here and not somewhere else, like maybe France or Spain?
Well, I actually have a postgraduate diploma in Italian High Renaissance and Mannerist art. And the locus of that particular era of art is Florence and Venice. So I'd taken trips to the north of Italy on a number of occasions before this, and it was just a place so easy to immerse yourself in museums and amongst the beautiful palazzi and the beautiful surrounds. So that's why this area was my favourite.
Oh, wow. And then how did you zone in on Treviso? Because it's a little bit out of the way. It's not an obvious, say, choice. Like maybe some people might think of Lucca or maybe Modena or somewhere like that. So why did you choose Treviso?
Well, we had 6 weeks. The Australian government required us, or actually it was the Italian consulate in Melbourne, required us to have a signed lease under the terms of our visa before they would rubber stamp a 12-month stay here, which is what we applied for originally. So we started looking from Venice and went across the north of Italy through to Milan and stopped in at towns and lakes and uphill and down dale. And we had actually decided on an apartment in Venice. The deal was done. We were feeling really happy about it, shortly to board a plane to come home, when the deal fell through. The landlord had decided he was going to sell his apartment, and here we were almost on a plane to come home with no lease to return to give over to the Italian consulate in Melbourne. So we sort of had a bit of a panic, and I started looking at Venice and areas within close proximity, and that's how Treviso popped up. And sure enough, we took ourselves in a little Fiat Cinquecento on the road to hit up Treviso for a couple of nights and cold call on some realtors here locally. And as we were having breakfast in a bed and breakfast one morning, the lady who was serving us said, "Oh, what have you got on today?" And I said, "Oh, we're actually cold calling, looking for an apartment to live in." And she said, "I've got an apartment." We went, "What?" As if this is going to work. Sure enough, she had a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment 2 doors down from the bed and breakfast. And we signed a 4-year lease not long after that. The rest is history.
I love it. It's so serendipitous.
Totally.
Amazing. It was just meant to be.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hey, so let's just do a little quick geography check and let everyone know exactly where Treviso is, because it's kind of hiding in plain sight, isn't it?
Yeah. So Treviso is about a 25 to 35-minute train ride from Venice. So it's very much seated in the heart of the Veneto region, and is a beautiful blend of a very sophisticated little city and a very big small town. We have all the beautiful architecture, many, many edifices here, medieval and Renaissance, beautiful facades, lots of porticos, very similar to Bologna, lots of colonnades to walk down, which protects you from the heat in summer and the cold in winter. And it is a city that sits on a river and has a number of waterways, so very similar to Venice. In terms of population, it's a walled city, and I live within the Centro Storico. There's only about 1,000 or so residents inside the city, but outside the city, there's about 83,000 within the entire region. It sort of spreads its tentacles out to the north toward the Dolomiti, and then it sits next to Padua. It acquiesces into the countryside and sits right smack bang in Prosecco country that suits me just fine.
Yeah, I just really love the way you described it as elegant and sophisticated, because that's exactly the vibe that I got when I was there. And it was only for a brief afternoon, but you know, when you have that feeling about a place, I've really felt, oh, I could have lunch here many times. There's a few little beautiful restaurants tucked in under those porticos overlooking the little mini canals, aren't there? And they're just divine.
Yeah. The food and wine culture is incredible, Katie. I love to cook, but I also love dining out, and it is densely populated with eateries that go from the very humble to the super fancy, so there's no shortage of choice. It also really punches above its weight with retail, and that's something important to me as a former shopping centre manager. There's a really good variety of bespoke artisanal shops, but then you've got a couple of large department stores and even Benetton family, La Familia Benetton, are from this region, and so we have a very large United Colours of Benetton project here in town, and many family-sponsored Benetton buildings around the place.
I did notice there were quite a lot of, I don't know why this caught my eye particularly, but there was a lot of cookware shops, like really beautiful ones with little pasta shape makers and whatnot.
Yeah, it fills me with joy, those stores. I probably spend a lot more money in them than Leo would like me to. But the challenge has been coming from Australia, where we have an abundant supply of produce all year round. We've had to adapt to living a lot more sustainably here and shopping in season. We have a market on a Tuesday and a Saturday morning, and you can't at this time of year expect to go to the market and see abundance of basil. It's like, well, summer's over, forget it. So at the moment we're full of pumpkins and we're moving into the sort of winter root vegetable department in the markets, and even the meats are sourced fairly locally, and that's a really great thing environmentally in terms of the footprint and the transport of produce. But it does present challenges, and it makes you have to be a little bit more creative than perhaps at home, when we could go to a fruit and veg operator and buy coriander, cilantro at any time of the year. Well, I'm still waiting for that season. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that really don't like coriander, so they probably go, yeah, yes. But the market there is really, really nice, isn't it? Because it's in the middle of the two waterways there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very pretty, and the whole place is incredibly pretty. We feel really, really lucky to be here. But beyond the prettiness of the place, it was really important as expats, and, I'm in my late 50s, Leo's in his 60s, that we had a place that ticked a number of other boxes. For example, our chosen destination needed to be close to hospitals if we ever needed it, or physiotherapists, as, we're getting older and getting leg weary. We had to be close to transport. We don't have a car, so our method of getting around Italy is almost exclusively by train or by bus. And we're also serviced by Venice Airport, that's a 30-minute cab ride away. And Treviso has its own international airport, which is 12 minutes on the bus, and has taken us to places like London. It's taken us to Malta. It's very easy to hop on a local plane and get to pretty much anywhere in Europe.
Actually, that's a very good tip, because if people are flying from within Europe and they want to reach the north of Italy, it's a really good little airport, Treviso, because you can access the Dolomites from there. You can access, obviously, Treviso, and Venice is, Gabe mentions, a quick train ride down to Venice, and it's fantastic, really. Like, I think you've struck gold there. Now, do you get down to Venice much?
Yeah, a lot. There is something really fantastic about being able to look at Leo at 4:00 on a Friday afternoon and say, I feel like a drink, let's just go to Venice. And our 10-minute walk to the station transports us into our favourite cestieres, which is probably Cannareggio or Dorsoduro, and we hit up a Cicchetti bar and have a spritz before we know it. And I think the other opportunity that Treviso presents for us, Katie, is the ability to get up at like 5:00 in the morning, get on a train at, say, 5:45, and walk Venice before a tourist has even woken up in the city. And you have the city to yourself. And that's a really special thing.
And I think it's a really, just even, not just for people that, thinking of maybe making a move to Italy, but even if you're staying there, a lot of people stay in Chioggia or on Mestre.
Yeah.
I think it might be even lovelier to stay in beautiful Treviso, because it's so lovely, and you get all the Venetian things as well. Like, there's a big Venetian lion on the gates, and honestly, it's so pretty. All the piazzas and all of that. It's just gorgeous. Like, why would you stay in ugly Mestre? Sorry, Mestre, a little bit ugly. When you could stay in Treviso, you just might have to get up a little bit earlier and get into Venice. But it's just super beautiful. Are there any special sites of Treviso that people should check out?
Well, I think visiting friends and relatives tell us that what they really want to do is not be sort of pulled around from pillar to post through northern Italy when they come to Treviso. They really want to sit and dwell, and they want to do that preferably at a cafe with a spritz or a coffee in hand and watch the world go by. And Treviso is that spot exactly. It is a fantastic place to people watch. You only hear Italians speaking in the streets. And it seems to be a town populated with an oversupply of very little toy dogs that are very well kitted out in winter with vests and little collars and what have you that seem to match their owners' coats. And people watching is a big thing here. But if you actually do want to get up and get a little bit more exercise, the passeggiata is very, very big here on the weekend, starting from Piazza dei Signori and going down Calmaggiore, which is the Roman road, which is sort of the spine of central Treviso. That is a ritual that the Trevigiani hold very dear and are very keen to get out amongst it in their fineries, walking the streets on a Saturday or particularly Sunday night.
Yeah, like you said, you don't hear many other languages spoken there. So even in parts of northern Italy, some of the towns, so especially around Lake Garda, you are hearing a lot of German, because there's a lot of German visitors. But do the German visitors come to Treviso?
No, nor the English speaking, to be honest. We see on a Monday morning, which is sort of ironic because most of the town's pretty quiet on a Monday morning because, of course, everybody's been out late on Sunday night's passeggiata. But on a Monday morning, we see a group of Italian tourists come through with an Italian tour guide, obviously, at the helm, leading them through the town to look at things like some Roman ruins. We have a very large Roman mosaic that they all tend to congregate around, or have a look at some of the beautiful edifices right in the Centro Storico. But we really don't see tourists.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I think maybe sometimes people think, oh, if it's not pretty, then people don't go there. But it's one of those it's one of those places in Italy, you're sort of going, why isn't there anyone here?
Absolutely.
It's so pretty. And I think that, there's a really famous fountain there, though, isn't there? That's a little bit cheeky.
The Fontana delle Tette, the Fountain of the Tits. And the original is now under glass in the main loggia in town, but there is a replica that's still a couple of 100 years old in the original place where the original Fontana delle Tette was in situ. And it is a fountain of a woman holding up very proudly her two breasts, spouting forth from which is fountains of water coming out of them. And we understand that when a new mayor was elected back in the day, one of the breasts would spout red wine and the other would spout white wine for a period of 3 days. So I've drunk from the tits, but it's only been water for me so far. So
Oh, well, I mean, if that's going to ring people's bells to get them to go to Treviso, then maybe so. But I think one of the other really amazing things about your city is they're very famous for certain dishes and certain like different types of food, and it's super yummy. And what are some of your favourites that you've discovered since you've been there?
Well, the Trevigiani are very keen on radicchio, which they claim is their own indigenous vegetable. I've seen it served here as a first course, in a second course, and sometimes even in a dessert, which is totally random. Radicchio ice cream, I haven't actually tried it and have no intention of doing it. But their greatest claim to fame, of course, is tiramisu. In fact, only a week ago, Treviso hosted the World Tiramisu Cup, and I had the chance to meet last year's winner, Chef Serafini, and there's a frenzy of tiramisu throughout the entire town at the best of times, much less during the World Cup, in all different manifestations and all different variations. So I've got to be honest, I'm partial to a bit of tiramisu. The other great local dish is porchetta trevigiana, which I'm sure you know porchetta well and love some sliced pork, roast pork in a sandwich. But here they have their own special recipe for herb-infused roast pork, which is completely divine. And the other fruit, actually, that the region is known for is the persimmon. And it's sort of got a lovely story. It's part of the lotus family, and it actually arrived from Japan into Treviso in the 1800s. And they say it's the perfect example of integration into the local environment, having itself been a traveller that assimilated into the local environment. I sort of identify with the persimmon. So we do see a number of persimmon trees locally. But the wine is the raison d'etre, to be honest.
I know. I don't know. Like, I do love a glass of Prosecco, but even we had actually stayed on the mainland, going back a few years now, before COVID, in the mainland between Treviso and Venice. And we stayed at this lovely agriturismo, and he sourced his wine locally from the area, and it was a beautiful red variety. I don't even know what it was now, because unfortunately we couldn't bring any home and we couldn't source it. They just gave us this amazing experience. They're so kind, showing us around the winery and introducing us to his family. It was very, very kind.
That's lovely. The hospitality in the wineries has really surprised us. There is so much more to this region beyond Prosecco, although Prosecco itself has a legitimate claim to our respect here because, of course, it's the cornerstone of any spritz that you might want to serve. Hemingway made famous when he was in this part of the world, Valpolicella, which is a beautiful, rich red but very fruity, and its big brother and more serious brother, which is Amarone, and that's very much like the smoothness of a Merlot, but much more infused with spice and warmth and very fruit forward and not so tannic. So I can highly recommend those for any travellers in this region.
Oh, yeah, well, because they dry the grapes first, don't they, before pressing?
More time in a barrel, yeah.
And so, like, it really has it all. Like, I was saying to myself, why haven't we been here before? I say that to myself a lot, actually, when I'm in Italy. But this is an occasion where I really was thinking, oh, Prosecco, yes. Tiramisu, yes. And the radicchio, absolutely. Like, I really love it. Not everyone likes it because it's quite bitter, isn't it? And I don't know how it would work in a gelato, but...
Yeah, but we had some American friends over last night and we served it in a salad, sliced very thinly in amongst the other salad greens. It just sort of provides a bit of brightness to a salad, which is great.
Yeah, totally. I think, a bit of goat's cheese.
Now you're talking. I think the other lovely thing is we're coming up to All Saints' Day and food changes depending on the feast day or depending on the season. And so with All Saints' Day coming, the locals eat a lamb soup dish named castradina. It doesn't even appear on a menu. You just have to know about it. And on All Saints' Day, in any restaurant, even if you sat down and it wasn't on the menu, you would just whisper to the waiter, castradina, and he would just nod knowingly at you and wink and go and get you a bowl of freshly made lamb soup. But my husband Leo's favourite time of year is Carnivale, because what emerges at that time are these absolutely beautiful pillowy donuts infused with either zabaione or a pistachio cream or a crema pasticcera known as frittelle, a fried donut. And after I talk to you, Leo's dragging me to the gym because we've actually got to get match fit for the season of frittelle in January. We've got to lose some weight so we can put it back on.
The frittelle, I don't know. What do they do with this fried stuff? It almost feels healthy, and it feels very rude not to eat it as well. Like, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Now, we talked about going to Venice and on a day trip, but there's other ones you can do too. Like, obviously, Prosecco country is right on the doorstep, and it's beautiful, isn't it?
So beautiful. We hire a car maybe once a month. I mean, yesterday we hired a car from Treviso airport, which was like $50 for the day plus petrol, €50 for the day plus petrol, and headed out into the countryside, still within the Veneto, but we headed out to Castello di San Salvatore, which is high atop of a hill, and it only opens up 3 days a year. It's still privately owned by a principessa who opens up her establishment and lets people walk in and see the rooms that are still covered in medieval armoury and frescoed walls, which is absolutely beautiful. I really love heading out to a lot of the Palladian villas like Villa Marzare. I love Marzare. There's never anyone there, and I have no idea why, because the frescoes on the wall are incredible. Padua's, again, only 35 or so minutes away, and plenty to do there. So we really are well positioned with rail, with, car links through to the major cities in the local area. We really are very spoilt for choice.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful part of the world. And, we did one trip there actually where we flew into Venice and did a loop into Slovenia and Croatia and back again. And not that I do obviously love Italy first, but they are very interesting countries, especially the Istrian Peninsula, which was dominated by the Venetians. It's a very interesting place to visit too. But amazing. So if you stay in Treviso, do you need a car or can you just walk it?
You don't need a car if you're living inside the city. In fact, it would be a pain in the backside to have a car. But I can't recommend enough the reliability of the bus network and the rail network to get you around to where you need to be. It's only for the, country day trips, maybe up to Montegrappa, which is to the northwest of Treviso, that you're going to need a car. And it's certainly worth the hire car fee for the day because it pays you back in spades with the profound views from Montegrappa.
Oh, amazing. How long have you been there now in Italy?
A year.
A whole year. All right. So have you seen a lot of other things outside of Treviso? What else have you really enjoyed?
Well, again, just exploiting those transport links via train. We're 2 hours from Trieste, and I think that is a glittering city. It is an absolute pearl of the Adriatic as far as I'm concerned, and has that really interesting nexus between the Habsburg culture and the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Italian history, all fused into one city, similar to what you were saying about Slovenia, Katie. So I think that is a glittering city with plenty to do. So that's been an absolute favourite for me. What else? Udine is only 1 hour away on the train. And, oh, my giddy aunt, it is like a little Venice. In fact, their central piazza in Udine was a replica of San Marco Square in Venice. And the Winged Lion is proudly on show there on a very similar astrological clock to the one that you see in Venice. And, again, a beautiful promenade, beautiful city to passeggiata around. So that'd be my favourites.
Oh, I haven't known too much about Udine, actually.
Yeah, they've got a really fantastic archdiocesan house that has saved a lot of the religious art from a number of the parishes surrounding Udine. Is all now concentrated in one very large complex. And the library there is worth seeing, even if you're not that particularly interested in the art side of things. So it is, again, another gorgeous town, very, very well worth the visit.
How about a little bit further afield? Why don't you share a few little favourites from I think you said you visited 10 regions of Italy so far.
Yeah, 10 out of 20. Our mission is to get to 20 before we leave in the next year or so. Well, we only recently went to Bologna, and I think you can pick up by now that I'm a food lover, and I was probably ill-prepared for the choice of food and beverage options in Bologna, and that's certainly going to be one that I head back to. I know Milan gets a lot of a bad rap for being too busy and too difficult to get around, but you know, for a couple of times a year to do Christmas shopping, for example, Leo and I took ourselves last year on a train ride from Treviso straight into Milan, direct on the train. And by mid-morning, we were shopping in our coats and gloves and in amongst the Christmas trees in the Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. And seeing Milan at Christmas time is really, really special. We're also great fans of Liguria, Santa Margherita, probably more so than the Cinque Terre, which we're finding to be overrun by a lot of tourists these days. So, but, you know, it's pretty beautiful.
We're on the same vibe. I'm definitely checking out Udine because, Santa Margherita Liguria is magical. And the whole of Liguria, I just don't get why people don't go. I mean, it is a little bit tricky, I guess, in terms of the transport. It can be a bit slow to get in and out of Liguria, but my goodness, it's worth it. It is so beautiful. And the food, the wine, the people, the pesto.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if I had to maybe pick one most special experience I've had since I came here, it would be a boat ride that we took from Venice. Again, only 25, 30 minutes on the train away from here in Treviso. We were picked up at Santa Lucia station and headed out on a boat to a little island off Venice called Pellestrina. And on Pellestrina, a little village island in its own self-sufficient world, unaffected by tourists, but very, very Venetian. We just enjoyed a dinner on a terrazza, drank wine and watched the sun go down over the Venetian lagoon. And I just pinched myself and think, I just can't believe I'm so damn lucky to be able to do this.
Oh, my goodness, it's a long way from a shopping centre in Melbourne.
Sure, and all those fluorescent lights.
And for all of our non-Australian listeners, like a shopping centre in Australia is, guess what? It's like a shopping centre anywhere else in the world.
A big hermetically sealed biosphere where natural light very rarely manages to penetrate.
Yeah, and I would have to say, you know, Milan would kind of, in the Galleria, they would beat it hands down. And I totally agree with you about Milan. I'm not sure why people, I think people are wanting that, you know, very almost picture perfect scenes like they would get in Florence, and obviously Rome is, you know, Rome. But, you know, Milan is special, and the reason I love it is because it takes everything that's the best about Italy, the traditions and the innovation that makes Italy so very special, and you do see that the best through food, I think, in the way they're innovating. So tell me, actually, before we wrap this up, tell me what was the best tiramisu you had at the Tiramisu Festival?
Yes, Chef Serafini had produced a tiramisu, the usual layers of Savoiardi biscuits with some coffee and some mascarpone and some cream. But instead of dusting the top with chocolate, dusted cocoa, instead he'd used like a caramel cream, like dulce de leche, and it was stunning. Leo and I had a spoonful each and thought we were going to burst into tears in the middle of town, which would have been rather humiliating.
Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. It sounds so good. Oh, well, Gabe, I've just loved hearing about Treviso and your adventures in Italy. How amazing. And so, I think when I mentioned before, when we visited, I found it an utterly enchanting place. And it's obviously very, very handy if you want to get around Italy as well. Now, if our listeners are keen to learn more, can they stay in touch with you, or how would you like to do that?
They absolutely can. We'll provide, Katie, in the description accompanying this podcast, an email address to reach out to Leo and myself. And if anybody is interested in how we managed to make the move to Italy without any family connections and without any work permits, Leo, my husband, has a spreadsheet with an 82-cell flow chart of the processes we had to go through, the hoops we had to jump through to get us here. And we're more than happy for people to reach out via that, and we'll see how we go from there.
Yeah, and I think it's applicable to pretty much unfortunately, the British are included in this category now. So Brits, Americans and Australians have the same, I guess, visa requirements. There might be a few little tweaks, but I think that would apply not just to Australians, but to Americans and Brits as well, right?
Agreed. And honestly, what you need more than the ability to fill out a multitude of forms in Italian with Google Translate close by, you just need to know it's going to be a hard thing, and you've got to accept that, and you've got to just have the poise and the grace and the ability not to be a perfectionist and expect things to be done on your schedule. They will be done and they will be completed in a particular sequence, and you just have to have a lot of patience.
Yeah, and full respect to you, because I do know how much patience it takes. And so, but you seem to have done it quite speedily, actually, I have to say.
It took about 8 months, 8 to 12 months. I think anybody making a move, we had to sell cars, we had to lease out our house. We're not wealthy people. We're people that are doing this by trying to make the transfer from Australia to Italy as financially painless as possible by renting out our home back home, which pays for our apartment here. And it has been so worthwhile. I encourage anybody who has dreams of Italy, don't put it off. You just don't know when a bus is coming around a corner to run you down. Don't wait. Just do it.
I love it. Carpe diem, seize the day. Absolutely. Well, Gabe, grazie mille. Thank you so much for joining us on Untold Italy today. And I hope you have so many more adventures in Italy.
Happy to catch up with you again, maybe after we've ticked off our 20th region.
Oh, you never know. Great stuff. Thanks, Gabe.
Thanks, Katie.
So, carpe diem, everyone. Seize the day. Italy is waiting for you. And if it's not beautiful Treviso, then I have no doubt there is a pocket of this amazing country calling your name, whether it be for a few hours or a longer stay. Treviso certainly charmed the socks off me, and I hope to return there sooner rather than later. I always find myself drawn to these secondary towns and cities where life continues as it has for decades. A Sunday passeggiata, coffee in the piazza, hearing only Italian voices. There's something quite magical about that experience that makes you stop in your tracks and think about the life you live at home and how, perhaps, you could simplify it, Italia style. As always, we've provided a list of all the places, foods and wine